Ikki Kurogane, a teenager who is known as the worst one throughout his school for his lack of talent, prepares himself for usual morning training. Elsewhere, Stella Vermilion, the princess of the Vermilion Kingdom, is seen arriving in Japan and will enroll in the Hagun Academy. Upon finishing his training, Ikki returns to his room and walks in on a half-naked Stella who is changing as the situation was made worse due to Ikki's bad attempt of getting even by stripping himself. Ikki was then summoned to the director's office where he was criticized by Kurano for his indecent behavior before summoning Stella into her office for Ikki to formally apologize to her. Stella, however, demands Ikki to perform harakiri as an apology, much to Ikki's dismay, who accidentally blurted out that he refuses to commit suicide just over seeing Stella in her underwear. Enraged over Ikki's comment, Stella starts to emit flames, with Kurano leaving the office to avoid getting involved. Ikki, in desperation, claims that he was mesmerized by Stella's beauty, surprising the girl as her flames weaken out of shyness. As Ikki tries to explain the situation again, Kurano comes back and reveals that both Ikki and Stella are roommates, much to their surprise. Kurano then brings the two of them to their room and reveals the reasoning to why they are roommates, much to Stella's displeasure as she gives more impossible demands to Ikki. To solve the problem, Kurano gives both of them the option of settling the issue with a duel, which eventually escalates into a duel with the loser becoming the winner's slave for life under Stella's demand, after Ikki's casual remark on the victor being unknown till they actually fight. Stella is later seen preparing for her match with Ikki as she reminisces her efforts to master her powers and is displeased with how others view her as someone with talent solely. Meanwhile, at the battle arena, Ikki is seen conversing with Kurano on the terms of his graduation, win the 7-star Sword Art Festival. Stella then arrives at the arena and their match officially begins, with both sides materializing their respective devices. Stella starts the duel by attacking aggressively but was continuously countered by Ikki, who countered back after copying Stella's sword techniques, almost landing an attack on Stella but was blocked due to the difference in magic. Stella, while lamenting on winning in her undesired way, activates one of her strongest attacks, Catartirio Salmandra, out of respect towards Ikki. Ikki willingly admits that he lacks the ability as a Mage-Knight, and reveals his trump card, Itashura, which forcefully removes all of Ikki's physical limits, drastically increasing his powers. Dodging all of Stella's attacks, Ikki successfully lands an attack on Stella, winning the duel before collapsing due to exhaustion. Stella is then seen in the hospital room, being taken care of, and Kurano comes to her room. Stella questions Kurano on how Ikki could be an F-rank knight, to which Kurano explains that the system is based on the blazer's ability, not the actual fighting ability. Stella asks Kurano how Ikki failed, and Kurano explains that it was a complicated situation. Kurano then recommends Stella to follow Ikki's footsteps, as he is someone who works hard as well. Stella then enters her room to find Ikki sleeping on one of the beds. Stella gets on top of Ikki and begins to feel him, becoming shocked at her first touch of a man. Stella then hits her head after Ikki wakes to find what she was doing with him. Stella then talks with Ikki and apologizes for labeling him, when she didn't really know him. Ikki smiles, and reminds Stella of her servitude to him. Ikki, then, orders Stella to be his roommate. Stella agrees and they both bump each other's fist, promising on making their arrangement work. A silver-haired girl is seen on a train, thinking about someone that she loved dearly, having to suffer great pain, because of their mother and father. Stella and Ikki are then seen having just finished their daily 20 kilometers run together. Ikki offers Stella a drink from his bottle, who is initially shocked at the offer as it would be an indirect kiss. Stella still takes it, as Ikki talks about his excitement about his sister coming to the school. Yuri Orki, the homeroom teacher, introduces herself to all of the freshmen and Ikki. Yuri reminds the class that this year's participation for the 7 Sword Art Festival would be dependent on winning selection battles and nothing else, and that they would be informed through their student ID. Yuri then cheers on her students to participate in the selection battles, and then quickly throws up blood soon after falling unconscious. Yuri is then in the infirmary along with Stella and Ikki. Ikki explains to Stella that it was thanks to Yuri that he was able to come to school in the first place. Yuri also mentions how unfortunate last year was. Ikki and Stella walk through the hall and Stella asks about what happened last year. Ikki explained he wasn't able to take classes last year, and before he could properly explain further, a girl named Kagami then appears to hug him, causing Stella to get jealous and walk away. Ikki chases after her as the girl with silver hair appears, and Ikki recognizes her as Shizuku, his sister. Shizuku then gives him a kiss to the mouth, shocking everyone in the vicinity, including Ikki and Stella. Stella interrupts before Shizuku is able to kiss Ikki once again, causing Shizuku to become angered with her interruption. Stella explains that she interrupted because she was Ikki's servant and also stated that they had slept together in the same bed. Shizuku then decides to deploy her device, Yoshigure, to kill Stella and was confident that she would be able to do so as her element was water. Stella deploys her device in response and the two clash, causing an explosion in the hall. The two were punished with cleaning duty for their actions. After they were done cleaning, Shizuku and Stella continued to argue, causing Shizuku to accidentally bring up Ikki's past and how it felt as though he didn't exist to his family. Shizuku then ended the conversation, leaving for her room. Shizuku is then welcomed back to her room by her roommate Nagi. Stella then meets Ikki outside in front of the school, where she questions him about if he was treated like he never existed by his family. Ikki decides to tell her the truth and depicts how his family had been treated over the years. One day Ikki couldn't take it anymore and decided to run away during a very bad snowstorm. The moment he was about to collapse, Ryuma, his grandfather, had appeared to him, encouraging him not to give up, as he carried him back to the home. Ikki continued to explain that his family had even pressured the school into making him fail, to make sure Ikki never becomes a knight. While Ikki and Stella are talking, Shizuku talks with her roommate and tells him about Ikki's situation and how she learned of it. Shizuku then tells him her resolve to give Ikki the fatherly, motherly, brotherly and sisterly love to him. After training with Ikki, Stella tries asking him out on a date, but their conversation gets interrupted by a text message sent by Shizuku, asking Ikki to go shopping with her. Stella is shocked when Ikki accepts the proposal and decides to accompany him. During the shopping trip, Ikki has an awkward first meeting with Alice, whose effeminate personality puts him off, but he later praises her for getting Shizuku to open up to other people more. The entire trip is spent with Stella and Shizuku competing to get Ikki's attention, with Shizuku seemingly triumphing every time. As the four split up to use the restrooms, the mall is suddenly taken hostage by a group of armed men led by a blazer named Bisha, who demands a large ransom in exchange for the release of the hostages. Kurano authorizes Ikki, Stella, Shizuku and Alice to use their devices to attack the assailants. When Stella intervenes, Bisha subdues her with his device, Judgment Ring. Shizuku takes advantage of the gunman's distraction to protect herself, Stella and the hostages with a wall of water, while Ikki slices Bisha's left arm off to prevent him from using the Judgment Ring. When the gunmen retaliate, another blazer, Shizuya Kirihara, arrives and subdues them. Afterwards, Kirihara reveals that Ikki had a match against him but ran away, and says that he will be Ikki's first opponent. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe.